Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and MacLane podcast, presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and MacLane. Mac, we're making history on today's episode. Making history. We are going to talk about SMU, Southern Methodist University, based in beautiful Dallas, Texas. I am from Texas, so of course this is exciting for me. SMU's joining, Sean. SMU's joining the ACC, Mac. Welcome to all the SMU fans.
Come on. What's up, everybody? What's up, Dallas, the Big D? I'm excited about this. As you all know, I've been jacked up to talk about SMU and to bring them in the league. And, just a place like Dallas, I love it. Been there many, many times, I'm sure. KG, you got down there. Austin girl. You got to go to Dallas a little bit, right?
Mac, Not this so is much. Interesting. Because
like
for SMU fans,
what are we doing?
No. For SMU fans listening, they'll understand. So my brother now lives in Dallas. He actually went to SMU for a graduate degree. But Austin and Dallas are kind of, at least back in the day, Austin's super bougie now anyway, so they've become bougier. But when I was growing up, Austin was kind of the keep Austin weird. Like, we're the smaller city. We're just ourselves, whatever. And Dallas is bougie Dallas.
Right.
Now Austin's bougie too. All of Texas can claim to be bougie at times.
That's good.
So there is a little bit of that. But
so Dallas it was like great. Difficult. You didn't want to get, like, you had to have a passport to get from Dallas to and vice versa, like the great country.
A little bit of that. A little bit of that. Sometimes when my brother's being a little, let's say he buys something that's a little expensive or whatever, my parents and I just go, oh, he's in Dallas now. He lives in Dallas now. That's the way we say it.
Good for him. Shout out to
all love to our
JG
Dallas folks. All love.
That's right. And welcome to the party. And also welcome to the party, our guy Billy Embody from On3 went to SMU, played at SMU for a year. And it's so funny. I had already interacted a little bit on social media and this and that. And then I talked to some of the SMU folks, and they're like, he's the guy. He's who you need to talk to. I said, of course he is. That's why we're bringing him on. This was a really fun conversation. And quite honestly, for you guys listening, maybe for the first time, maybe some of our fans that are always with us here, we've got to do more because we have to jump into SMU. Same thing that we'll do with Cal and Stanford. But I am intrigued because seriously, the joke I make is you just don't know. We haven't covered them for the past 5 years like we have other schools here. And so it's going to be fun, super fun to dive in, to learn new things. And that's exactly what we do here. So shout out to Billy. Very grateful for his time. Before we get to that interview, a quick message from our friends over at Ingles, and then we'll get right to it.
It's time to discover the convenience and time savings of contact-free pickup with Ingles Curbside. Just visit shop.ingles-markets.com or download the app. And your Ingles personal shopper gets to work with specialized training on how to select the freshest items for a pre-scheduled pickup. They'll even text you with updates. You pull up to a designated space and your personal shopper delivers your items right to your vehicle. Fresh, fast, and affordable. It's all in the bag. Ingles. Low prices. Love the savings.
Okay, Billy, welcome, brother. It's great to see you. We're talking SMU. We're welcoming you guys into the ACC. Thank you for joining us, man. I'm excited for this episode. We've been waiting a long time to make the Texas connection with Kelly in the ACC here.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. There's a lot to dive into today. And as I've said throughout this kind of journey, Kelly, that we've been on is, these episodes are a little unique and a little different. This one going to be a little more unique because we have no clue what we're talking about. We have to do a bunch of packing, a bunch of knowledge. It's like day before the test. You're staying up till midnight learning about what you're going to be doing and studying here. And that's where we are because SMU, brand new, coming into the league this year. Billy, your thoughts? You attended SMU. You played quarterback there for a year. Happy, excited, sad? What is it? How are we feeling about joining the ACC, man?
Look, I've covered SMU in some capacity now for over a decade, which one makes me feel old. Two, realizes that SMU has been on this journey kind of wandering through the wilderness for a minute now. And that dates all the way back to the Pony Express and the death penalty and all of those things, of course. But it's now that final culmination of all the people who put in the hard work to get SMU here. I mean, when I was at SMU, I got there in 2010, played for a year under June Jones, and we were an Adidas school and the jerseys didn't fit, and it was the next step was hiring a $2 million man in June Jones to breathe life into the program. They got finally back to bowl eligibility for the first time in 30 years back then. And then from there, it came to Chad Moore's show. They got back to bowl eligibility. They had, a star in Cortland Sutton, and the high flying offense was brought to SMU. And Sonny Dykes was kind of the next coach that needed to be put in place at the right time, a program stabilizer who could build off of what Chad started with Texas roots. And then Rhett Lashley, who had learned under him, took over as first time head coaching job. The blueprint was there with the transfer portal, and at that same time, NIL came to be, and Rhett Lashley and his staff have certainly taken advantage of that. And during that time, SMU's dumped about $1 billion into athletic facilities on campus over the past 10 years. So don't worry about the TV revenue either, I guess.
We're good. We're good.
After the worst home schedule, that I have ever seen, been a part of.
Oh no.
Being in the ACC is welcome, not only for me as someone who went there, but covering it. People are pumped. I can't tell you how much they are excited about this.
That's great to hear. And the home schedule will look a little better. Florida State's coming to town this coming season, and I can tell, Billy, you're already excited for that. But give our listeners and viewers a little bit of a understanding of SMU, and again, powerhouse in the 80s, death penalty. I think a lot of people know the basics there, but trying to get back and just the fan base, being in Dallas, being in one of the biggest cities, and honestly one of the richest cities in the country, and this fan base and all the money, like you said, the $1 billion. So how can this program compete in the ACC when it comes to everything beyond the field, like donors, all that stuff? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, SMU is, I kind of mentioned wandering in the wilderness, and somebody who's very involved with the program and is one of the top boosters said to me when they got into the ACC, he said, Moses wandered in the desert. SMU wandered in the desert longer than Moses did. So it's really been the case. And after the death penalty, you had administrators that didn't want anything to do with having a football team with any sort of advantages. You had to meet an academic standard of, a Rice, a Stanford, schools like that to get to SMU and play at SMU. And oh, by the way, they completely canceled 2 seasons of football. And so there's a what we call the forgotten generation or the lost generation of SMU fans. And those are now kind of the fans that are probably in their 40s, early 50s. Those are you should be hitting your stride with those fans as far as supporting the program. And so it has been on the backs of a lot of uber successful donors who are a little bit more seasoned, so to speak. And they have made it a priority really since the early 2000s when football returned to campus on SMU's campus to spend money, to invest. They built Ford Stadium, which is undergoing they say officially $100 million, but I know with construction costs, it's $120+ million end zone complex that I got a chance to tour last week. And it's going to be pretty insane when it's all said and done. You don't realize how much space you can get kind of going straight up and underground and things like that. But they have invested in facilities. They built a $60 million indoor facility just 2 years ago that opened. They've done all the usual refurbishing of football offices through the years and things like that. And during that time, they've expanded their salaries for football coaches. Before Sonny Dykes ended up leaving for TCU, they were ready to make him a $5 million head coach.
Wow.
And that was back in the AAC days. I'm ready to put the ACC thing behind me. But you have Rhett Lashley, who is really a guy who's been a coordinator at various high-level jobs, Miami, Auburn, places like that. And he's had success wherever he's been. And he's kind of a cool customer. He's a recruiter, I think, at heart. And so he's really capitalized on, one, I think a fan base that when Sonny Dykes left was pretty pissed off, and rightfully so. I mean, that doesn't sit well, and it doesn't really happen. And I don't think it's happened in college football to that degree.
And where he went, Billy, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Where he went, for a crosstown rival. And now he's there doing his thing, and they go on a perfect storm, which rubs salt in the wound. But Rhett had to come in and basically save his entire roster. And NIL was new. This wasn't a collective that was in place or two collectives like they have now. There were players that, quite frankly, were being talked to. And you had a staff that knew they were going, or most of them, for a month leading up to that. And so he had to come in and salvage that before even addressing his roster. And so they started up a collective, and that collective did a great job. They only had one defection to TCU, a veteran offensive lineman from Fort Worth. And that was really what put the plan in place on the NIL front. And that's where SMU has really been able to thrive. And they do a really good job of identifying talent that can also turn into something when you're needing to maybe go out and address a need, but you can't necessarily, just go, full, let's say A&M, Ole Miss, status in NIL and just spend and spend and spend. You have to be wise about it. And you look at a guy like Elijah Roberts last year, who came from Miami, underutilized, and put into a position where he becomes a transfer All-American for us at On3, All AAC, a guy that should have been probably Defensive Player in the Year in the league, and is going to go into this final year with a chance to probably be, if he lives up to that level again, he could probably be a round 2 to 3 guy just with his versatility. He's that good. But my whole point on that is they do a good job of balancing, bringing in Jonathan McGill last year, Stanford captain from the Dallas area, who wants to finish his career at SMU and is a good football player, with guys like Elijah Roberts, who flew under the radar and was kind of the add-on to nose tackle Jordan Miller in that deal, so to speak. And they just do a good job of walking that line, and they have the support of donors, fan base that want to embrace what is now allowed. Now it's legal, where SMU kind of wrote the book on spending big back in the day. So it's fun times around here. It's a great city, of course. When ACC fans visit it, it's they're gonna have a good time. We'll have them covered on all the food, drink, and
food,
hotel recs and everything. Mainly
barbecue. Let's go, baby.
Barbecue. Yep. Bring in the Carolinas and let's have at it. So they're just in a really good spot because they walk that line of, okay, that's a real good player. We can bring him in. Hey, there's a guy that can project to be a good player, just needs a better opportunity or situation.
I love a lot of good stuff there, man. This is going to be an interesting episode because it's like, hey, we don't have hours, all right, to talk about all this. And there's so much that, really we want to dive into. And what I love that you just said about, back in the day, they wrote the book, they went in that library, got it, and just, let's dust this thing off and let's get back to work. Okay, let's get it going. And I love that because it's a new world. And, you have to figure those things out. And, we did a transfer portal show the other day, and I'm looking at the percentage of starts by transfers. SMU now, we're putting them in all these ACC metrics. 67% led the league. Florida State was second right there with 59. So they're embracing it. They're taking it. They're saying, hey, let's add guys now. And I think what you might see in this year and maybe this next coming is, okay, we're also going to supplement this with all the talent in the high school region. It's kind of, we got to get these guys to play now, and then let's build that machine. And who knows, it'll be interesting to see kind of what they look like. I'm jacked up. I really am about these guys and bringing them in the league and all the different things that come with that. But let's kind of do a 10,000 foot view of last year, and let's start with the quarterback position, because I think Preston Stone, I know he hurt his leg in that last game. Maybe an update if you have it there. How's he progressing? Will he be able to, go in fall camp? Are we expecting him by then? Is it sooner? Where's kind of Preston with his, recovery?
Yeah, he broke a bone in his leg and had surgery, and they're going to hold him out of spring ball. This was kind of all a part of the plan. He'll get to do some routes on air, maybe some 7-on-7, but Preston is a guy who has played a ton of football from freshman year of high school. He was a national recruit already, had offers from all over, and now being the SMU starting quarterback. So he has all these years on him. So I don't think it's a bad thing that they're going to kind of limit him this spring and let him kind of observe. And on the flip side, Kevin Jennings has played a lot the last 2 years, led them to that win against Tulane, and is a guy that a lot of people like in Dallas at SMU as well. So he'll get even more reps this spring, and they're kind of hoping, I think, that keeps him around because he is, just backup quarterback wise. I mean, at the very least, a really, really good backup. So Preston's fine. He's going to be ready to go for fall camp for sure. And I think with him, he developed, and that's what really kind of sucked, just watching Preston get hurt in that game. And, second quarter, halfway through, and you're up 52-7 or whatever it was. And you're like, well, should they have taken him out? But I mean, nobody gets taken out in the second quarter.
Right.
So he was really hitting his stride. That Memphis game the week before, he was really turning it on. He was starting to really calm down. Early in the season, I felt like he was running around, kind of trying to do too much and still having some success, but it was also slowing the offense from reaching its full potential. And after they went on the road at East Carolina and played a good ECU defense this year and really struggled offensively, I think they scored 13 points or something, or 24 points, and they had a late touchdown to kind of even get there. And that's when everything kind of turned. And I think they really had a calming down discussion with him, and he was able to turn it on from there and be one of the most productive quarterbacks, especially touchdown wise, in the country.
Yeah.
And I think he's learned some of the big stage stuff, TCU, OU, being in those environments, being the guy, as well as just leading SMU to an undefeated AAC record. I mean, that's hard. I don't know, who you are, what conference with your talent level around you. And it was just tough for him to not be able to obviously finish what he started, but he's a very talented quarterback. He is an SMU legacy. His dad was president of student body, so he's all in on this as well, of course, but he's got a chance to really be settled in. They'll go to Nevada, they'll play Houston Christian, and then they get into the BYU, TCU, FSU, Louisville stretch. And that's when we're really going to find out how much he's taken a jump. Can they go 2-2?
Right.
Can they go 3-1? Maybe. Can they shock some people? It'll be a lot on Preston Stone this year.
With that injury, Billy, are you feeling, will Preston Stone start game one? Is that what we're feeling that he can do?
Yeah.
Recovery wise?
Yeah, he's going to be just held out of any sort of like quick twitch kind of stuff, team and things like that in spring. And then he'll get back. He's going to be 100% cleared from what we're last week or 2 weeks ago from Rhett Lashley. Should be 100% by the time the summer workouts start. And so he'll be in for that.
That's good to hear. Yes, because, like you said, the schedule, you ease into a little bit, but then TCU, FSU, Louisville, that's going to be really fun. Before we get to this defense that was, second nationally in sacks last year? Kind of crazy. Just offensively in general with Rhett Lashley, who I think ACC fans are familiar with from Miami. Yeah. Outside of Preston Stone, give us some other names we should be watching and just what we can expect from this offense.
Yeah, this is an offense that was able to really, I think, take advantage of a couple things. The AAC being relatively weak outside of some of the top end teams, they were able to just stack yardage and points. And I mean, I think they had 3 AAC games that were 52-7 type of games. I think they beat Temple. I mean, they just got out of hand on some of them. But they're also an offense that, can grind things out here and there, at least what they did in the AAC. They really need somebody to step up at receiver. They lost Rashee Rice going into it last year, and he was a guy that just took over games, drawing pass interference, big plays, all those things. They need somebody, and in particular, really Jordan Hudson is kind of the guy. He's a former 5-star. He transferred from TCU. He led the team in receiving touchdowns, I believe, had 8 in his first year. And so he's somebody that has the talent, has kind of all the tools to be like Rashee Rice, quite frankly. If he steps up, then all the other receivers, they've got about 6 guys with going into their final year of eligibility at receiver, and they've all played a good bit. They're all veterans. They need somebody to really step up. They have a budding star in RJ Maryland at tight end, and then LJ Johnson, the former Texas A&M running back, looks like he's probably going to be the guy at running back. Jalen Knighton's still there. Rashard Smith from Miami is going to play some running back and obviously be a return guy as well. So they've got some really interesting pieces. That whole skill group needs to take it up a notch just as far as consistency. They rotated a ton of guys And then the offensive line was very good, and they lose 2 starters off of that group and had a couple guys that played a lot. So they're looking for a little bit more consistency in the run game, and the passing game probably needs to take that next step forward too, with somebody being a true number one receiver.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think when you look at that and you see the production and who they want to be, especially looking back at the Miami days, they love to run the football. Coach Lashley, that's going to be a piece, and that really helps that RPO, and then you can take some shots downfield. What do you think adjustment-wise, Billy, from body types, from being just ready to go and play in the ACC? Again, bowl games are relatively meaningless now. I understand it. You can only take so much from them. But you're going against a 6-6 struggling Boston College team. And this, we got the champs. We're feeling really good. I thought SMU was going to, air them out. I know the field, all these different things, whatever. Is that a reflection of that? Or do you think that, hey, don't even think about that, this team's going to be ready to go, day one?
Yeah, there's so many different angles to it. Like you said, the field kind of not show. I don't think they were as ready to play as they needed to be. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they were, even though they were leading going into the fourth quarter, they were missing on some things. They didn't tackle that well. And usually they were a pretty good tackling team defensively. But Thomas Castellanos he was just awesome, especially in the second half. So he put a lot of pressure on them. They were missing 2 key defensive starters for the game. And then they had a couple injuries at the wide receiver position on offense. So, and Kevin Jennings is a backup quarterback at the end of the day, and just didn't get enough, I think, from his wide receivers and his help and things like that. I mean, he threw a 35-yard dime early in the fourth quarter, and it's hit him right in the hands, and he drops it, and they kick a field goal, gets blocked. Instead of going up 11, you're down 3, and then Boston College is able to impose their will on SMU in the fourth quarter. So a game that SMU would certainly want back. I think there are a bunch of different angles with that, without a doubt. But I think they generally, at least on paper, would feel confident going into their home matchup with Boston College, second or third weekend of November, that in Dallas on a good turf and everything kind of even on that front, that they can take that next step and beat a team like that, beat a team like Pitt for homecoming this year. Stanford struggled last year in the Pac-12. Those are games that you want to see them tick off and check the box, in non-conference of beating a BYU and TCU. I mean, those are 2 teams that didn't make bowl eligibility in the Big 12. You want to see them take that step. There's a path where SMU goes 10-2, quite frankly. And there's also a path where they probably are around 6-6. And that beat down of a true Power 5 schedule can come back and hurt them. I think the big thing that SMU has done, and to your question of body types and all those things, they do not take time off when it comes to addressing the trenches.
Right.
They have Branson Hickman leaving. He was a starting center. Hiron White is a veteran offensive lineman who's leaving the right tackle spot. Well, they already had Ja'Kai Clark, who started 40-plus games at Miami, backing up Hickman. They have some more transfer help coming in. They brought in Savion Byrd to compete at right tackle with another former top 100 in P.J. Williams. They have been able to develop depth at these offensive line spots where they had an injury here or 2 this year. They were able to plug them in. It's a different level, don't get me wrong, but
sure.
They were able to do that and even rotate against an OU and a TCU. And defensively, they lost 3 starters on the defensive line. Well, 4 if you include their edge rusher, Nelson Paul. And they were able to go out and bring back Elijah Roberts, a key retaining piece there, but also go out and bring in a Tank Booker, who's played a lot in Power 5 football. And then they went out and got Mike Lockhart, who played a ton, Georgia Tech and West Virginia, and been pretty productive, almost had double-digit tackles for loss in the Big 12. And then they go to kind of the piece where you can find some hidden gems. Jonathan Jefferson is a guy that came highly recommended from Georgia, a former 4-star who's just kind of caught behind some of those Big 5 stars on the Bulldogs. And
bit of a logjam at Georgia.
Yeah. So they just kind of addressed, especially in the trenches, really well, and they returned their entire linebacker unit, their entire safety group. They will try to grab one more D tackle and one more corner and maybe a tight end in the spring, but they've done a lot of the addressing now, which has been key.
I love that. I love that. What's the difference? I like what you said there of 10-2 or 6-6. Like, what swings that? Is it health, luck? I mean, is there something in your mind where you're like, yep, if we can, do this, SMU is going to be in a good spot?
Number one is health, and that was something they, for the most part, were pretty good with throughout the season. They lost their right tackle in the second to last game or third to last game of the year, and other than that, they lost a couple guys in the bowl game to injuries early, and then a couple others that didn't play because of the draft or whatnot. But the big thing for me is seeing Preston Stone take the next step. And to do that, he needs help from some of his receivers. Like I mentioned to Jordan Hudson, a former 5-star, he needs to be that go-to receiver. But he also has Moochie Dixon, who's played a lot. He was a former Texas transfer. Jake Bailey's been a good option out of the slot, as has Roderick Daniels. Romello Brinson, a former Miami guy, as well as Keyshawn Smith. Both talented players need to take the next step for Preston to get, a little bit more help from that group and consistency. There were times where you'd see them make a great play against an OU or TCU and other points of the schedule, but then you'd also see them be locked up and not be able to get separation and do some of those things. And part of it is Preston developing his timing and getting through reads quicker. I think he did a better job as, he got more experience. But you couple that with needing, they had Tyler Levine, Jalen Knighton, LJ Johnson, Kamar Wheaton as kind of the 4 running backs that they played at different parts of the season. No one took on that kind of bell cow, reliable running back, whether it be injuries here and there or other missed time. They need probably LJ Johnson to be that complete back, where he showed a glimpse against Memphis and some other programs that year that if they can get him to be, a 1,000-yard back somehow, which I know is tough with running back by committee at times, but if he can be that productive, that would go a long way.
Mac, here's also why I think, SMU fans are excited about this schedule. I think you draw for just your first year in the ACC. Look at the teams they get, right?
Yeah.
Stanford, Duke, Pitt, BC, Virginia, Cal. Not our best, I would say.
But they do start with the ACC championship
game
and of a year ago. They do start with
Louisville.
Hey, welcome, Billy. Welcome. Here you go. Here's our 2 best from a year ago.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that.
Fans expecting the 7 o'clock ABC matchup against FSU. Remember, it's September in Dallas. Let's
That's right.
Be smart here.
Listen, I know. But yeah. So look, let's look at the schedule for a second here, Billy, because FSU at home. That's going to be fun. I feel like I'm hoping maybe already close to sold out or sold out. And going to be a hot ticket for sure. At Louisville, and you have TCU right before that. So a big stretch. But beyond that, Stanford, Duke, Pitt, BC, Virginia, Cal. SMU could possibly be favored in most of those. Maybe not at Duke, but beyond that, very possible. I don't love this October where it's all road games. That's odd, I think, and tough for SMU. But in general, Billy, when you first saw the schedule come out, what were your thoughts? And how do you feel like the fan base is feeling about this schedule as well?
I think now that the week 0 game with Nevada is on it, a football program very much in transition there, they can block this schedule off into 3-week periods. And that's with the bye week, like they get a bye week now before TCU to reset after the first, initial 3-game stretch. They can learn a lot from the BYU game. There's the expectation that they beat BYU. They got another game against an opponent in a very cold environment that they lost under Rhett Lashley in their bowl game the previous year. They went for it all at the end. They went for the win at the end of regulation, lost. But they have this 3 games, and that's how it's broken up. So if they can come away 3-0 and then maybe go 1-2, at least get some sort of statement win in that next 3-game stretch. Then you get into you've got to be on the road. You've got to play Duke, which talk about storylines. Johnny Brewer leaving SMU to be Manny's offensive coordinator. You got some other could be a little spicy, but they do. All those guys love Manny Diaz. I mean, that's one thing that I took away from a lot of the guys that spent time around Manny when he was at Miami. But just some good storylines there.
Yeah,
And
it's the Miami Bowl in Durham.
Yeah.
Duke and SMU. It's like, what?
Yeah.
What is happening?
Just keep it private, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. So that's probably the one that I really like circle, and like this will be a really good matchup. And I know Pitt's another one that they struggle, but they have that. They're Pitt. They're at least from an outsider joining the league, they are physical. They've had some success here and there. That's another one, homecoming weekend for SMU, that they're going to need to be paying attention for. And regardless of what happened with Pitt last year in the league, they just have some opportunities to win games that, at least from a fan base's perspective, and seeing, like, if you go back to OU and TCU, if you want to do some scouting there, they go on the road at OU, they miss a wide open touchdown pass, and that's the first drive of the game. 2 plays later, they're punting, punt blocked, 7-0 OU. Then they have to, they kind of are playing just a little bit of catch up, going into that one. But you talk to any OU fan, SMU played them about as well as anyone outside Texas, for the most part. But the TCU game, they just didn't show up for. They need to continue to develop that sense of, when the game is bigger, showing up, which they did at the end of the season in their AAC run. Don't get me wrong. But those were 2 early season games that SMU fans, in particular, the OU one, sitting there saying, man, that OU game was winnable. They didn't execute. They made a couple miscues here and there. They had a fumble when they were driving to take a lead. I mean, they let that one get away from them. So there's optimism. And there's also the reality of, okay, when this is all stacked up and you're in a Power 5 schedule, can you just lock in on when you have opportunities to strike against some of these? I mean, they're all steps up from the AAC, outside of maybe Tulane, maybe. They're all steps up in terms of depth that you're competing against, talent, length, size. I mean, it's just different. And so when you can strike and get a win, they're going to have to do that when they have opportunities. And it's football; it doesn't always happen, but they have a team that's veteran enough and talented enough to do it. That's going to be the learning, maybe, curve in a way for this team as they navigate a full schedule.
Sure. Well, here's the deal. We can't wait, man. It's going to be so much fun. We got to have you back on because there's so much, and we're introducing our fans to you, vice versa. So welcome, SMU, to the ACC. Billy, you're the bomb, man. This was great. Really appreciate your time today.
Thanks so much, guys. Had a blast, and we'll be sure to do it again soon.
Thanks again to Billy for joining us. And look, if you're an SMU fan and you're watching this, you probably already follow Billy, but go follow Billy. He works with On3 and has a great SMU site. And I'm sure we'll be talking to him more soon, Mac, because the season will be here before you know it. You might be doing the ACC Network Roadshow out there in Dallas. I bet you are already campaigning to do that show out there in Dallas.
Sending an A, I'm like trying to trade, like what will I give up to go to Dallas? And it's a lot outside of Tiger Town. I'm up to trade anything. So whatever it takes to go down there. I love going to Dallas. I'll actually be there a couple of different times for the USFL, which is coming. UFL, excuse me. Whoa, don't need to say that on air. It actually is still one of the leagues, though. It's still one of the leagues, so that would be fine. It would be a fine mess up. But the UFL, because we've merged and we've come together, a big party. So I'm excited for that. Always fun to go to Dallas and always fun to talk to our friend Billy. So it's going to be a big party. Cannot wait to get it cranked up. The most interesting thing about their schedule, KG, is the fact that they play Boston College at home, a team they just played.
Interesting.
I can't wait to see that one. I know it's a little down the road.
That's the most interesting? I think FSU is the most interesting.
Well, sure. And you look at TC, all these different things. There's actually a lot of storyline. The Miami Bowl that's taking place in Durham. There's actually a lot of intrigue with this schedule and just to see. And I hope SMU fans show up. I hope that place is nuts. And the investment that they have obviously made to get to this point is very impressive. So anyway, we got to get out of here. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We need your help. Come subscribe over to the channel, hang out, especially our new Dallas fans. Let's go. We need to see a spike over there in that community as we welcome you guys in. Graham Lincoln Mac Lane, just jump on the channel and also leave some comments. We always appreciate that. Pony up, baby. Get that express rolling. And of course, the OGs over on Apple Podcasts, rate, review, subscribe there as well. We will greatly appreciate that. But until next time, we'll see y'all.